guys, Dina here. Thanks for joining me. Welcome. Today I've got a little project to show you that was inspired by Craft Roulette. Episode number 229. If you're not familiar with Craft Roulette, it's the ultimate paper crafting card making challenge. And they spin the wheel, they give you 4 parameters, and you have to make a card or a project with those parameters. So for this project, the parameters were to make a faux envelope that included strings with berry colors and an overlap. So that is exactly what I've done with this project. So let's get started. I'm using Ink and Splatters Strawberry Field Mice for my image. I just chose the little peeking mouse. She's tiny. And I'm going to ink her up with some Gina K premium dye ink so that I can use my alcohol markers. This dries very quickly. I'm going to set her off to the side and begin working on our project. This is a 4 1/4 by 11 sheet that I cut from an 8 1/2 by 11. And I'm going to score it at 5 1/2. And then I'm going to flip it and I'm going to score it at 1 1/2. I'm going to fold it in half. And then I'm going to take the flap, the 1 1/2 flap, and I'm going to flip it forward. So this creates our faux envelope. So now I'm going to round some of the corners. You don't have to do this, I just like to. I did the flap and the back panel. I'm going to grab some paper from Ink and Splatters Strawberry Fields. There's a lot of berry patterns in here, berry colors here. So for my front panel is a 3 by 4 that I cut. I pre-cut all of these. And I'm just going to put this underneath the flap and leave a little margin around it. I'm attaching it with some tape runner. My flap is a 1 by 4, and I'm going to round the corners to the bottom side. And line it up also to create little margins of white. I'm going to put this little pink piece of paper in there so I can see my margins better. So I can line it up with the front panel. And now this back piece is a 1 1/2 by 4 because I want to slip it down below the flap. I'm going to tack that flap down because it doesn't need to be up. It's not going to serve any purpose other than for decoration. So now I'm going to go ahead and use my tape runner and line this up with the other 2 pieces. And there is the front of the envelope. Okay, so for the back of the envelope, this piece is 5 1/4 by 4, and I'm going to round the edges for the top of this panel. Using my tape runner again, I'm going to fix this to the back. This just gives stability of the envelope. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but now it's nice and sturdy. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use some glue on the sides of this panel. I don't want to use my tape runner because I think it's a little wider than what I would like it to be able to fit something inside. That's it right there. Okay, so now I'm going to work on my overlap. So that was my faux envelope. That meant that parameter. And now I'm going to use these scallops. The largest scallop is 3.5 in diameter, I believe. Yeah, it's 3.5 inches in diameter. And this will serve as my overlap parameter. And I'm going to just put this on the front, just overlapping that top panel slightly. Okay, and there's my envelope. Now this is for my note card. My note card is 3.5 by 4 3/4, and that should fit inside perfectly. I want to add a little sentiment to it, so I'm going to get out my mini Misty, and I'm going to use a Gina K sentiment. I liked this font because it was cute and quirky, kind of like my envelope, so I decided to use this. My stamp is stained because I used this cherry red, but it didn't ruin the stamp in any way. It's just stained. So I actually inked this up twice to get a good image. And now I just want to test it to make sure it fits in there. And it does. It fits in snugly, probably because I used 2 pieces of cardstock. Alright, so let's work on the little mouse. She's so tiny, there isn't a lot to do on her, but I'm going to start with a base color, as I always do. And I'm just going to cover the mouse with this color. This is my lightest color. And my blending color is what I usually refer to it as. So now I come in with a mid-tone to start to define, can't speak today, to start to define some of the little hairs and some shadow. Nothing much. This is a very easy image to color because she's so small. I'll come in now with my third color, my darker color, and just pull out some hair a little bit more and make the shadows just a little bit darker. Not too much. I don't want her to be very dark because I don't want her image to overpower the envelope itself. So now I'm coming back with my base color, my blending color, and I'm just going to blend it out and soften those edges up. I want to make her pop out a little bit, so I'm going to use some pinks. I'm going to make her little ears pink, light pink, and I'm going to start pulling out her little chubby cheeks. So I use a base color for that as well. This is my middle color. It's the one you will see the most of. And let's just go ahead and do her bow too, just to keep everything cohesive. In her little nose. I dotted her nose. So I'm going to come in with a darker color, but I'm just using it so sparingly because this is a bright color. I don't want it to overpower and be too crazy. So I'm going to come back now and blend all that out. I just want to make that nose a little bit pinker. If ever you have to color something super tiny like her mouth or her nose, you can just dot it. You don't have to worry about spreading your color around. Now I'm going to come in with some highlights. I use a Jelly Roll number 10. I just want to make sure it's rolling. With gel pens, you just have to lightly touch your paper. They're on a roller, and if you press too hard, your pen tip won't roll. So if you do it lightly, you'll have success with your ink. So now I'm going to die cut her. These are the die cuts that coordinate with the Strawberry Field Mice. And I'm just going to bring out my little die cutter. And just get her cut. And there she is, tiny but mighty. And I also die cut a cute little heart button it's got some openings, but now I'm going to work on my envelope. Okay, so I have this mini envelope punch. I cannot tell you where when I got it. It's one of those things that's been in my stash since I've ever had a stash. So, but I use it a lot. So anyway, I'm lining up the flaps with my scoreboard, and I'm just scoring each flap. It's really easy just to line that up. You can see it really well. I'm using a piece of pink textured paper for this. Now I'm just going to reinforce the flaps. And I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to the bottom flap. It's all it needs so that I can close it up. And that's all there is to it. Now if you don't have a mini envelope punch, here's how to make one without a punch. So this piece of paper is 2.5 by 3 3/4. No, by 2 3/4, I'm sorry. And I'm going to score it on the 2.5 side. I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch on both sides. And then on the longer side, I'm going to score it at 3/4 inch on both sides. Okay, it's hard to see in here, but they are scored, believe me. So now I'm going to cut out the notches where the scores meet on all 4 corners. This is going to help us fold it up. So I'm just following the score lines and I'm cutting out those notches. Okay, I'm just going to make sure they fold over well and don't cover each other. So I'm reinforcing it, and I'm going to try to, you could stop there if you want to, but I'm going to try to make it look like the little pink envelope a little bit. So I made a pointy top, and the bottom I'm going to use my corner rounder punch again, but the sides don't fit into it even though I try. So I will use my scissors, and not my strong point, but I will cut some curves there just so that everything folds into each other a little bit easier. All right, and then just like the pink one, I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to the bottom flap. And that's it. You got yourself a mini envelope. And you didn't even need a punch for it. So you can do that with any size paper that you have. You just have to figure out where to score it. So now I'm going to put my envelope on with some foam adhesive and add my little mouse. I'm going to pop her up on some foam adhesive as well so that she looks like she's popping out of that envelope. Yep. I'm going to add a little bit of glue to the back of her so that I can position her properly. It's not something you have to do. It's just something I like to do in case I don't set her down properly. So she's good to go. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the back, and it's a good thing that I do put some glue on the back of this because you will see in a second that I actually drop it. Yep. So now if the glue wasn't there when I had dropped it, it probably would have stayed right where I dropped it. So I'm glad I had the glue there. It was just my insurance. So now I'm going to cut a little string, and the holes on this cute little button are a little bit small for this string, so I'm just going to go ahead and tie a bow and affix it to the front of the button. I'm going to use a glue dot for this because it's very thin, it's clear, and I'm able to roll it up behind it, fold it up behind the knot, which will reinforce the knot as well. And I am just, putting that to the top of the button, and I'm just going to go ahead and do that to the back of the button as well. And there it is. Now I'm just going to cut my string to size, and I'm going to add a little bit of color in the background. I always do this. I like to add a little bit of watercolor in the background behind my images just to make them pop. This time I went a little bit darker than I had anticipated, so I'm going to water this down a little bit more. This is just ink. I usually use watercolor paint, but I'm using ink today, and I'm using my water pen, which I absolutely love. And I'm just, putting a little bit of color behind this envelope. But like I said, it went a little bit deeper than I had wanted it to, so I'm going to come in with some white opaque ink, and I'm going to create some texture behind the envelope with it. I'm going to kind of create the look of a spatter without spattering. So I'm just dotting this with a regular paintbrush, small paintbrush. I watered down this ink, and I'm just randomly adding dots around. It helps to kind of not really blend, but lighten the background, and it also creates a little bit of texture, so it's kind of twofold. Now for these super cute little strawberry shortcake embellishments, I'm going to pick out a couple of strawberries. So awesome that I just happen to have these for this project. And I'm going to, just see where I want to put them first. So I'm going to take my little stick pin, I'm going to put them around, see where I want them to go, and then I'm going to glue them down. Just gluing them down with some regular glue. And I use the rule of threes for my strawberries. And there it is. There's my project. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed this. It followed all the parameters, and I had a lot of fun making it. It looks difficult, but as you can see, it was super easy to make. The only preparation was cutting my papers. So thank you for joining me. If you like this video, if I've helped you at all, please consider giving me a like, subscribe, and hit the notify button if you want to see any more videos from me when I make them. Thank you for joining me, and have a really great day. I'll see you next time.